Hi, I'm Alice.
And I'm Danwin, and we're SafeWork New South Wales inspectors. This webinar can help everyone, especially businesses, to better understand how to prevent musculoskeletal disorders in your workplace. Musculoskeletal disorders, often known as sprains and strains, are the most common work-related injuries and diseases in New South Wales. From here, we will refer to musculoskeletal disorders as MSDs.
In this webinar, we'll talk about managing MSD risks using a systematic approach that considers key components of your work systems. These components include management commitment, consultation with workers, health and safety representatives, and others in the workplace, proactive management of MSDs using the 4-step risk management process, including identifying hazards, assessing the risk, developing controls, and reviewing control measures, information, training, instruction, and reporting systems.
Let's go through each of these components to see how MSD risks can be managed in the workplace. We'll also hear from a medium-sized landscaping business and learn how they're managing the risk of MSDs at their workplace.
Obtaining management commitment is an important step to managing MSD risks at work. Your leaders, such as executives and directors, have a legal obligation to prioritize and commit resources to manage MSD risks. This involves actively participating in managing MSD risks by maintaining up-to-date knowledge of work health and safety matters. This includes being aware of the physical and psychosocial risks that may lead to MSDs, providing and enforcing systems and processes to manage risks, such as safe work procedures for hazardous manual tasks, allocating sufficient resources to manage risks, such as buying lifting aids, and setting and monitoring specific business targets that focus on MSD prevention. For example, leaders could track the effectiveness of MSD risk controls by measuring the number of hazards eliminated.
You must consult with workers about work health and safety matters that affect them. This means asking for and considering their opinion on the things that can harm them, and also on what can be done to reduce the risks. They are the ones doing the work and the best ones to provide information on MSD risks that can harm them. Consultation involves discussions between management, workers, and others such as health and safety representatives. There should be multiple ways to share information on a regular basis. This process allows both businesses and workers to raise issues and give valuable feedback on possible solutions. A practical way to achieve this is talking to your workers about MSD issues at work through team meetings such as toolbox talks. Another way is asking workers about which work tasks cause discomfort to the body and then sharing ideas on how it could be made easier. Consultation is also important at every step of the risk management process, which we will go through now in more detail.
The 4-step risk management process for preventing and managing MSDs is ongoing. It's important to use this process for situations such as reviewing your workplace for hazards that may be causing harm to workers, or changing work practices, procedures, or the work environment. If an MSD incident occurs, or if a new MSD hazard is reported.
Now let's talk about the 4-step risk management process for preventing and managing MSD risks. The first step is identifying hazards, which can be done in a number of ways. Asking workers what tasks make them feel uncomfortable provides an opportunity to take action before an incident occurs. Observing workers doing tasks can identify if they are exposed to any risk factors, such as high force, vibration, or awkward postures. Reviewing available information, such as hazard reports, incident and workers' compensation data. This involves looking into those areas to understand why MSDs may occur or have already occurred. Conducting discomfort or fatigue surveys with workers can also identify potential physical or psychosocial hazards. The best approach is to use a combination of these methods to better understand what MSD risks may be present in your workplace.
The second step is assessing the risk of the hazards that have been identified. Ask, why is it a risk? What is the source of the risk? And what is the likelihood of it occurring? For example, consider physical factors. How often, how many, and how long are specific postures, movements, or forces performed or held in a hazardous manual task? Consider psychosocial hazards. Are workers exposed to poor support, poor role clarity, workplace conflict, and/or high workloads? Are there any hazards impacting on each other that may increase the risk of MSDs? For example, a physically demanding task with a lack of resources and support can lead to greater risk of an MSD.
The third step is to control the risk by following a process known as the hierarchy of control measures. At the top of the hierarchy is eliminating or removing the hazard, as this is the most effective way to manage MSD risks. If it is not reasonably practicable to eliminate the hazard, you must then minimize the risk through either substitution, isolation, or engineering controls. Any remaining risk must be managed through administrative controls and/or personal protective equipment. The hierarchy of controls must be followed. However, using a combination of different controls may be needed to manage the risk so far as is reasonably practicable.
This process of developing controls involves pinpointing the source of the risk and managing them by considering the work area design and layout. For example, are workstations and benches at a suitable height for workers? Environmental conditions. Are workers exposed to cold or heat-related conditions? Nature of things being handled. Consider whether the load being handled could be substituted for something lighter. Systems of work, including how work is managed, organized, and supported. Is there information, training, and supervision provided to workers to allow them to manage MSD risks? Interaction with people, plant, structures, and substances. Are there sufficient resources to support workers in performing their duties?
Other matters to be considered include duration, frequency, and severity of the exposure to both physical and/or psychosocial hazards, information, training, instruction, and supervision, interaction and combination of hazards involved. When determining the right control, identify and address the source of the risk, and involve your workers. Also, consider trialing solutions before putting them in place.
Step 4 in the process is to review the controls. Once controls are put in place, it's important to consult and follow up with workers to ensure the controls are working effectively and as intended, the identified risks have been reduced, and that other hazards haven't been created. If improvements or other hazards have been identified, it's important to go through this 4-step cycle again to ensure the risk is managed accordingly. The most common causes of MSDs are hazardous manual tasks, followed by environmental factors such as slips, trips, and falls on the same level. To help you manage these risks, SafeWork New South Wales have a range of tools you can use, including Hazardous Manual Task Risk Management Worksheet, Hazardous Manual Task Systems Self-Assessment Tool, Slips, Trips, and Falls Systems Self-Assessment Tool. You can visit the SafeWork New South Wales website to see the full list of tools available.
You must give information, train and instruct your workers in a way they understand so they can do their work tasks safely. Information, training and instruction must be relevant to the work being carried out. For example, training should include information about manual task risk management, how to use lifting devices safely, and how to report a problem or maintenance issue. Remember, training on lifting technique such as keeping your back straight and bending your knees while lifting is not an effective control to reduce MSDs in the workplace.
Reporting MSD hazards is also a key component of the risk management process, and therefore, it is important to have a reporting procedure. Your workers are the eyes and ears on the ground, and if they see any health and safety issues, they should be encouraged to report and follow the procedure. For example, Workers should report injuries and incidents involving MSDs, MSD hazards and near misses, housekeeping issues such as slip, trip and fall hazards, damaged or faulty equipment, suggestions and improvements to prevent injury.
Now that we've covered these components of the risk management process, let's hear from a business in the landscaping industry about how they've managed MSD risks.
So Glasgow is a landscape and civil construction company. We've been in the business for about 40 years. We have 100 direct employees and we've got dozens of contractors per project. We're a commercial landscaper and basically deliver spaces for communities and people. Unfortunately, in the past, we've had workers suffer from MSDs, primarily from manual handling injuries. So the executive team and myself were committed to making sure that we mitigate those hazards and eliminate them wherever possible. In preventing MSDs, it's important that we know the hazards and the risks that they pose. So communication to the workers is critical. Our communication protocols involve things like meetings with pre-start meetings, toolbox talks, and that gives both us an opportunity to communicate to the workers and a chance for them to also give us feedback on issues that they're finding with MSDs. Importantly, we allocate the proper resources to managing MSDs on our work sites. But we found early on that we needed to educate our workers on what MSDs actually are, and so it took a bit of front-load training on that. After that, we ended up implementing a rollout plan for an MSD prevention tool that we found on SafeWorks website that worked really well. Some of the benefits we found with preventing MSDs include increased staff morale, we've got better worker participation and overall productivity. In our experience, better worker productivity comes from when we take care of our workers physically and psychologically.
The workplace consultation here on this site in particular has been awesome. Every morning we have a very thorough toolbox talk and daily pre-start, and it helps you build camaraderie with a lot of the other trades on site and improves the communication, and it also means that you know what's going on everywhere else all over the site, so you know how to move in certain areas and how to be safe.
So obviously with some years experience in the industry, being on the tools myself in the old days, noticed that with a lot of star pickets that we do use, and the majority of the time it used to take us to remove the star pickets, especially in hard foreign ground. We found that we had to come up with a better solution than just trying to hit them with a sledgehammer. And to manage the risk, we got together just to come up with a methodology that we thought was safe and obviously more productive and efficient. So once we identified the risks, we completed a bit of research and obviously come up with the idea of let's incorporate the star picker remover to our container. Let's give it a go, and then we'll just test it against our method of removing star pickets the old-fashioned way, and we found that obviously a lot more safer. We eliminated a lot of risks in regards to possible skeletal and muscular injuries as well. After putting the new methodology in place, we found on site that we're a lot more productive, we're a lot more efficient on site. The methodology in conducting the works was a lot safer, and we found that we eliminated a lot of risks involved with removing star pickets from the hard ground. So a couple of the main hazards that we did find was obviously the posture. So a lot of the workers on site, posture was quite poor, trying to remove the star picket with a sledgehammer and also swinging off it. Using the star picker remover, there was a lot less exertion on the body in a physical way, and which made it a lot more easier and efficient to remove the star picket. And the duration. So it took a lot less time to remove the star pickets using the remover instead of trying to swing off them and hit them out with a hammer. So they're the three key items that we found in our research.
The star picket remover really helps us to remove the star pickets safely on site. Sometimes they can get quite stuck in the ground, especially if they're left in there for a long time. And it gives us peace of mind to know that we got the tools and equipment to get the job done safely.
In this webinar, we've covered the components of a systematic approach to preventing and managing MSDs. We've talked about the 4-step risk management process and how a business has put this into practice. In summary, here are your key takeaways. Leadership commitment is critical.
Talk to your workers. Involve them at every step of the process.
Use a risk management approach to prevent MSDs.
Use the hierarchy of control measures to work out the best way to eliminate or minimize MSD risks.
Provide information, training and supervision that is suitable for the role and task.
Finally, encourage your workers to report any work health and safety issues.
To learn more about musculoskeletal disorders and your legal obligations, please watch webinar 1 and 2 in this series.
Visit the Safe Work New South Wales website or call 13 1050 to learn more about how to prevent MSDs in your workplace and check out the range of resources we have available.
MSDs are preventable. Simple changes can make a difference.